The Gospel of today is taken from Matthew chapter 22, verses 1 to 14, and contains a parable about the wedding feast. This parable might be seen to be divided into three parts. The first part is where the king is giving a wedding feast for his son and has already sent out the invitations much in advance to those who are to be invited, and now, on the day of the wedding, reminds them once again through the servants. When the servants go and invite those who are meant to come to the wedding, each one is ready with their excuses. They make absurd excuses which indicate very clearly that they do not want to go. When they accepted the invitation, they did not tell the king at that time that they could not come. They accepted the invitation, and the acceptance of the invitation was a clear sign that they would be present except in emergencies at the day of the wedding. The excuses which are given are so absurd and so frivolous that it is very evident that they are not interested at all. When the servants come and report to the king responds, and this is the second part of the parable, by telling his servants that those who were invited are not worthy to go and invite anyone and everyone, including the poor, the blind, the lame, the sick, anyone from the streets. And so the second part tells us that people were invited by the servants, and those who were originally invited refused the invitation, refused to show in action that they were interested in coming, and so did not turn up for the wedding. And this feast, therefore, was now thrown open to those from anywhere and everywhere. And the third part of the parable disturbs a number of people, and that is why I want to spend some time explaining it, and it is this: that there was one of those who was from the streets and who had come in, and when they came in, no matter what clothes they had, each one was given a wedding garment. So when they entered the hall, over their clothes or despite their clothes, or they removed their clothes and wore the wedding garment. So everyone in the hall was in a festive mood, and the wearing of the wedding garment was a sign that one had accepted not only physically the invitation, but the invitation also in mind and in heart, which was shown by putting on the wedding garment. So the person was there, not merely physically present, but present in mind and in heart and in body. However, when the king comes to look at the guests, he notices that there is one person who is without the wedding garment. The person was offered the wedding garment when he entered the wedding hall, but refused to take it, refused to put it on, which meant the person had come only for the externals, and the person was not there in spirit, was not there in mind. So the king is very courteous, the king is very polite, and inquires of the man why he has no wedding garment. And some people say, but were not the poor invited, were not the blind invited, were not the lame invited? That is true, but it is also true that when they came in, they had to decide whether they wanted to wear the wedding garment and show that they had really come in, or whether they wanted to keep their own clothes on and show that they were not there in spirit. So this guest was there in body. This guest was there physically, but was not there in spirit. He could not care less about the wedding of the king's son. And because he was not there in spirit, he behaved much like those who were invited at the beginning. They refused to come physically. They refused to come even in spirit. He had come there physically and refused to be there in spirit. All the other guests who were invited from the streets and from the bylanes and from the highways came in both physically and also in mind and in heart. And so the question which the parable is asking each one of us is this, that the Lord issues an invitation to every one of us to be present in his presence. And we can respond to this invitation in one of three ways. The first way is we can say that we are not interested in the Lord. We don't believe in the Lord. The Lord does not come to our aid when we need the Lord. The Lord has not answered our prayers. The Lord has taken away a loved one. The Lord has not given me a job. The Lord is not coming to my help at all. So I do not want to have anything to do with the Lord. I refuse the invitation of the Lord. The second is I make obeisance to the Lord only physically, but my mind and my heart refuse to take part in my worship. My mind and my heart are not in sync with my body. I just go through the routine. I just go through the motions. I could not care less if the Lord knows or does not know. I am there only physically. Or I can take the third option, which I would suggest, that I am with the Lord in mind, in heart, and also in body, like the majority of the guests who came in from the road. And that is why Paul in the second reading of today tells us that we must have, if we can develop this attitude of detachment. He says that for him to be hungry or to be full does not make much of a difference, because he knows that the strength which he really gets comes from the Lord. And he says in the second reading of today, I can do all things in him who strengthens me. How will I show through my words and through my action that I have accepted the invitation to the wedding today?